Hi, welcome to my video on Pythagorean property. Pythagorean property is used in math a lot, so it's important that you learn what's happening with the right triangle using the Pythagorean property. The Pythagorean property is used to find the lengths of the sides of right triangle. The lengths of two sides are given. Find the length of the third side. In any triangle, the longest side is opposite the largest angle. The largest angle in a right triangle is the right angle. So, in any right triangle, the hypotenuse is the longest side. Hence, the hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle. The sides that form the right angle are called the legs. So if I mark this angle here with a little, like a rectangle, then the hypotenuse is opposite that right angle, and the two legs are the sides that form the right angle. Let's do a couple examples. Fill in the correct letter for each. In this triangle, there's the right angle, so there's the hypotenuse opposite that. And the other two sides are A and B, they're the legs. In this triangle, the right angle is right here, and the side opposite that is X, so X is the hypotenuse. And that means the other two letters, W and Y, are the legs. Which length can be the hypotenuse in a triangle? Even though these might not be right triangles, the hypotenuse is always the longest side. So the hypotenuse in A is 5. 5 is the longest. In B, 8 is the hypotenuse, the longest side. Possibly. C, the longest side is 12, so 12 is the hypotenuse. Practice means pause, work it out. Number 1, 15 is the hypotenuse, the longest side. Number 2, the hypotenuse is 16. And number 3, the hypotenuse is possibly could be 8. So the hypotenuse is the longest side in a right triangle. The Pythagorean property used to find the sides reads the hypotenuse squared equals the leg squared plus the leg squared. Let's use that Pythagorean property to fill in for the triangles down below. Use the letters to fill in the Pythagorean property. So the hypotenuse is opposite the right angle. C is going to be squared equals the two legs, A squared and B squared. And this B, the second one, the right angle is here, so that's the hypotenuse, which is H is going to be squared. And the other two sides are the legs, so it's T squared plus M squared. And third one, C, right angle, G is the hypotenuse, so the hypotenuse squared is equal to the leg squared, D squared plus E squared. Practice. The hypotenuse is opposite the right angle, so R is the hypotenuse. And the legs are P and Q, so it's P squared plus Q squared. Second one, the right angle, opposite that is the hypotenuse V. V squared is the legs, X squared plus W squared. Third one, the hypotenuse is R because it's opposite the right angle, so it's R squared is equal to the two legs, which is S being squared and T being squared. Notice in number 4 I don't have any letters, so you can go, the hypotenuse is AB, so you can go AB squared is equal to the leg AC squared plus BC or CB squared. Again, this is the right angle, so AB is the hypotenuse. Sometimes books and teachers make this a C, make this an A, and make this a B, because the letter opposite the angle, so that's angle C, that's a small c, it'll enter the side. That's angle A, So this is a small a, it'll end beside opposite angle A, and so on. So we could go C is the hypotenuse. C squared is A squared plus B squared. Your choice. Let's continue. The Pythagorean property is normally written as, again, I have the same triangle as just then. C is the hypotenuse, so C is squared. A and B are the two legs. So opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. A and B are the legs that make up the right angle. Again, write the Pythagorean property for each triangle below using letters and numbers. So I always write down the Pythagorean property. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. C is the hypotenuse in this case, which is the x being squared. 3 and 4 are the two legs. Pythagorean property is, put the final answer down below. I just kept working up on the top there. So in the second one, again, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So in this diagram, the hypotenuse is 10, and the legs are x and 6. So 6 squared plus 6 squared, x squared plus 6 squared. Number 3, the Pythagorean property, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. The hypotenuse is x because it's opposite the right angle. So that's your C. A and B are 5 and 12. So it's 5 squared plus 12 squared. The Pythagorean property, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Keep repeating it, keep writing it down, and you normally won't go wrong. The hypotenuse is 15, that's in the place of C, 15 squared. X and 9 are the legs, so it's x squared plus 9 squared. Practice and writing it out. Can't go wrong when you want to work out Pythagorean property. Always write down C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Now we're going to go through, before we solve equations, work on this to give you some idea of what's happening. The square of opposite integers, squares of opposite integers. So we have an integer, which is 1. The square of 1 is 1 squared, which is 1 times 1, 1. The opposite integer to 1 is negative 1. The square of negative 1 is a negative 1 being squared, which is negative 1 times negative 1, which is 1. 2 is an integer. The square of that is 2 squared, which is 2 times 2, which is 4. The opposite of 2 is negative 2. So the square of negative 2, notice the negative 2 is written in bracket, squared. So it's a negative 2 times negative 2. Negative times negative is positive. So you get a 4. 3 being squared, 3 squared. 3 times 3 is 9. The opposite of 3 is negative 3. So negative 3 squared, negative 3 times negative 3. And we get a 9. The square of an integer and the square of its opposite are the square, these numbers here are 1, 1, 4, 4, 9, 9. So if I square an integer and I square its opposite, they are equal. Because a positive times a positive is positive, so we get positive answers. Let's twist it a bit. If I give you the equation x squared equals 1, then look up here. If x squared equals 1, we know that we can put a 1 here to get 1 squared, or we can put a negative 1 here, like we did up here, to get 1. So x squared equals 4. We got a 4 right here, which is a 2. We got a 4 here, and we squared it. We got negative 2. So if we take 2 or negative 2 and square it, you will get 4. To get x squared equals 9, so that means that 9 is right here, so that was a 3. 9 is right here, so that was a negative 3 again. No, oops, my mistake. 3 and negative 3. Oh, okay, there's a little tiny error here. My brain is working too fast. What about if we have x squared equals 84. Now we know what number squared gives me 84. We say 8. So the opposite of that is negative 8. If x squared equals 100, then what two numbers will give me 100? One is 10, and the other one is negative 10. If you notice, the answers to each of these equations above is the square root of the number with a positive and a negative. In other words, these are all positives and they're all negatives. The length of the sides of a triangle are positive numbers. So if I draw a triangle, I'll say the sides are 3 and a 4 and a 5. Notice there's no negatives. We can't have triangles do not have negative sides. When finding the length of the sides of a right triangle or any triangle, the negative number has to be omitted. Let's pretend x is the side of a triangle. Solve each equation. So follow how I'm going to solve them. So notice we can't have a negative number. So if x squared equals 9, x equals the square root of 9. Notice there's a plus understood it here. So x equals square root of 9, 3. So check. 3 squared, 9, right. X squared is 25, x equals square root of 25. Square root of 25 is 5. Notice I'm showing each step. X squared is 121, x is equal to the square root of 121, so x is equal to 11. X squared equals 4, x equals the square root of 4, so x equals 2. X squared is 36. Oh, I forgot to say, don't forget, when you see the word practice, you should pause, work these out, and then turn it on. So x equals the square root of 36, so x equals 6. X squared is 49, x equals the square root of 49, x equals 7. Let's continue. State the Pythagorean property. Well, we know that that's a C, opposite angle C. That's an A, opposite angle A. That's a B, opposite angle B. So we have C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Now let's use this property to solve these triangles. So if C squared equals A squared plus B squared, X is the hypotenuse, so that goes in place of C. 6 and 8 are the legs, so it's 6 squared, 8 squared. Notice the numbers are on the right side, so let's square each one first. 6 squared, 6 times 6 is 36. 8 squared is 8 times 8, 64. Notice we have to add these to get 100. And we're back to what we just did. That means x is equal to the square root of 100. So x is equal to 10. 10 squared is 100. And again, we have another one. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Notice we have two sides. We're trying to get the third one. Again, x is opposite the right angle, so x is the hypotenuse, goes into place of C. A and B are the 5 and 12, so we have them squared. X squared, we square 12 to get 144. 12 times 12. 5 squared is 25. We add them up and we get a 169. And x is equal to the square root of 169. X is equal to 13. Again, to notice, you can't have a negative number when you're dealing with a triangle. So you can practice, pause, work these out, and come back and see if you're right. C squared, A squared plus B squared. X is the hypotenuse opposite the right angle, so x is C. 4 and 3 are the legs. So x squared equals 4 squared plus 3 squared. 4 squared is 4 times 4 is 16. 3 squared is 3 times 3, 9. X squared equals 25. X equals square root of 25. X is equal to 5. And another one. We have C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Again, we have two sides. We're trying to find the third. We got a right triangle. We can use Pythagorean. X is the hypotenuse, so it goes in place of C. 7 and 24 go into place of A and B. And we square them. 7 squared is a 49, and 24 squared. You can pick up your calculator and you want to do 24 squared, which I'm going to do here. I don't turn around and memorize everything. So 24 square button x squared, I get a 576. And if I add them up, I get a 625. And x is equal to the square root of 625. X is equal to 25. Let's check the square root of 625. 620. Oh, I don't know. Let's do the square root first. 625, and we get a 25. Perfect. Okay, let's continue. We have a right triangle with two sides known. We need to find a third one. Again, we can use Pythagorean. C squared is a squared plus b squared. The hypotenuse is opposite the right angle, which is 26. X and 24 are the two legs being squared. 26 squared, we can work it out again with our calculator. 26 squared is 676. And 24 squared is 576. So x squared equals 576. Notice this time, like before, they're not on the same side, so we can't add them. So now we have to say what number add on to 576 gives me 676. Well, do it correctly if you wish, or you can do it in your head. Take the 676 and subtract 574. Because in math, when we bring this number over here, we change the sign. If that was a negative right there, we make it a positive. So we have to subtract. And notice that these two numbers are 676 subtract 576. You can see you have 100. X is equal to the square root of 100. So x is equal to 10. Now another one. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. Hypotenuse is 17. That goes in place of c because it's opposite the right angle. X is the a and b is the 15, your choice. And we have 17 squared. 17 square button. We get 289. X squared. 15 squared is 225. And what number added on to 225 gives you 286, 289, sorry. 289 subtract 225, if you do it on your calculator, is 289 subtract 225, you get a 64. So x is equal to the square root of 64. X is equal to 8. Notice I left the x on the right side and moved the number over. So we have a practice here. Another one. Pause. Work them out. C squared is a squared plus b squared. The hypotenuse in this case is opposite the right angle 5. 5 goes in place of c. 4 and x are a and b. 5 squared is 5, 5 is 25, 4 squared is 4 times 4 is 16, x squared. And x squared is equal to 25 minus 16. Notice 16 and 9 make 25, so 25 minus 16 is x squared. X squared is 9, x is equal to the root of 9, x is equal to 3. Pythagorean property, two sides, we need a third one, we got a right angle. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared. By now, if you didn't know it, you should know the Pythagorean property. Write it down. Always write down the c squared, a squared, b squared. 20 is the hypotenuse, goes in place of c. X is the a and the b, so we square them. 20 squared is 400. 16 squared is 256. Let's see, 216 squared, just to make sure, is 256. That means that x squared is equal to 400 minus 256. If we subtract that with our calculator, we will get a 144. X is equal to the square root of 144. So x is equal to square root of 144, I got that memorized, is 12. If you enjoy the video on Pythagorean, don't forget you can click the like button on my channel, the subscribe button, notification bell, because I'll be doing more videos and adding them on, and you can write a comment. Also, you can visit my website at www.mathfullyexplained.com. There you receive information about me, my degrees and teaching experience, the videos, the teaching strategies I'm using to help students succeed. The content on my YouTube channel, it will give you the topics, the number of videos on each topic. It'll also have the topics that I have completed on my channel in black font, and the topics to be completed in the future will be in red font. Hope you enjoyed my video. Bye-bye.